Chapter 20 of Kidnap on the California Comet by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgman. Now we have a funny title for this chapter, The Seymour Switcheroo. Now I think switcheroo is a made-up word. It's one of those funny words that we make up. So I'm going to use my meta-linguistic skills to try and work it out. Now a switch can be when you change something, like I might take an apple for my break and then switch it for a banana. So I think that's what the switch bit, and a switcheroo. That makes me feel like it's an adventure, a bit of an switch adventure. Let's find out, see if I got it anywhere near right. The sky was thick with dark clouds that reminded Hal of steam engine smoke. Granby Station was a quaint white wooden building with a green slate roof that sat on a short platform. Quaint means it's attractive and old-fashioned. They jumped down from the Silver Scout onto the dirt beside the track and ran along to the first sleeping carriage door and scrambled in. If anyone asks, we were in an empty roomette practicing magic tricks, Hadley said, and the others nodded. Do you remember that they were in the Silver Scout investigating to see if they could find any evidence that Marianne had been there, or in fact was even still in there, and then they travelled between the stations still in August Razor's private carriage. So that's what Hadley means. They've got a lie to try and cover their tracks to stop them getting into trouble. If we're going to catch out Seymour Hart, then we need to do it now, before he goes to lunch, Mason said. Seymour clings to his briefcase and freaks out if anyone touches it, Hadley said. It must have secrets or incriminating evidence inside. Incriminating means that it proves that you are involved with something. If I came into class with chocolate all round my mouth, it would be incriminating evidence that I had been eating chocolate in the break time. What's your idea for how we get to see inside? Hal asked. Mason and Hadley grinned at each other, and she said, a good old-fashioned switcheroo. So there we go. It's Hadley who's made up the word switcheroo. First, we need to find him, Mason said. I'll go to the other end of the train and work my way back to here. What do you want me to do? Hal asked. Find Francine, Hadley said. Get her to tell you which compartment or roomette Seymour's in. Hal nodded. What about you? There's something I have to get, Hadley said mysteriously. The three of them split up. Hal found Francine in the next sleeping car, stripping the bedding from a vacated roomette. Hi, Francine. I wonder if you can help me. Do you know a man called Mr. Hart? He's short, thin, grey hair, wears a suit, and always carries a briefcase. She nodded. Mr. Seymour Hart. Have you seen him? Not today. He's a quiet kind of man. Bet I don't hear a peep from him till he gets off in Sacramento. He's next to us, isn't he? Asked Hal. Roomette 9. No, sugar, said Francine, chuckling. He's not up on this floor. Why do you want to know where Mr. Hart is? He dropped something. I'm trying to return it. Want me to do that for you? Francine asked. It's against the rules for me to give out roomette numbers. No, it's all right. I'll find him at lunch, Hal said, backing away. Thanks, Francine. You're the best. Well, isn't that nice? Francine beamed at him. Hal ran to the Moretti's bedroom, where Hadley was waiting for him, holding a briefcase. Her hair was in bunches, and she had on a thick-framed pair of glasses and a jumper he could only guess was her father's. She pulled a geeky face at him. Hal gawped at the case. Is that it? No, doofus, I'm not actually magic. I borrowed this from the luggage rack at the foot of the stairs, Hadley replied. We'll put it back when we're done. No sign of Seymour, Mason said as he came down the corridor. Did Francine tell you what compartment he's in? She's not allowed, but she did say he was in a roomette on the lower floor and that he's getting off at Sacramento. We can look on the reservation tickets beside the doors for a booking from Chicago to Sacramento. My carriage doesn't have downstairs roomettes, just a bedroom, showers and restrooms. He must be in this carriage. He is good at detective work, isn't he, Hal? He got a lot from that conversation. The three of them crept down the stairs, past the luggage rack where Hadley had found the dummy case, and peered along the short corridor of the roomettes. Mason tiptoed forward and checked the labels outside each one. "There's 2 for Sacramento," he whispered, "but that one has ladies' shoes outside." "He's travelling alone," Hal said under his breath. "I saw him arrive at Chicago Station." "Then it's the one at the end, on the right," Mason murmured. "The curtains are shut," Hadley nodded. "But look, there's a silhouette. I think it's him." "Now what?" Hal looked at them. "Go and hide in that shower room," Hadley replied, "and watch the show." Hal did as he was told. Mason nodded, then walked right up to Seymour Hart's roomette door and knocked on the glass, launching into a pitch-perfect imitation of Francine's sing-song voice. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hart," he called out. "This is your friendly Amtrak reminder that due to us now being on West Mountain time, lunch service will end in 10 minutes. You'd better hurry if you don't want to go hungry." He turned and dashed soundlessly to the shower room, joining Hal, and whispered, "I heard him curse that he couldn't find his shoes. He's coming out." Hal and Mason both looked at Hadley, who'd shoved the borrowed briefcase into the luggage rack and arranged her face into a goofy expression. The roomette door slid open and Seymour Hart blundered out, pulling on his soot jacket. He grabbed his briefcase and hurried towards Hadley, stuffing a handkerchief into his top pocket. "There it is," Hadley said, yanking the borrowed briefcase from the luggage rack and stumbling backwards as Seymour Hart tried to move past. She cried out as she hit him, tumbling into the stairs, then falling to the floor. The borrowed case clattered to the ground beside her. Mason winked at Hal. "Oh, my goodness!" Seymour Hart put his case down to help Hadley up. "Are you all right? Let me help." "Ah!" She screamed and flailed her arms, springing to her feet, righting the dummy case. "Stranger danger! Stranger danger!" she cried, slapping away his hand. "Stranger danger!" Seymour blinked, staring at her in horror. "No, I wasn't. I just want to help. I'm not." Hal saw Hadley push the dummy case with her foot into the spot where Seymour had set down his own. "Get off me! Don't touch me!" she shrieked, and her bunches flicking wildly. "Go away!" Seymour did not need telling twice. He grabbed the dummy case and dashed up the stairs, heading in the direction of the dining car. I'm feeling really sorry for poor Seymour at the minute, are you? Oh my goodness. Hadley snatched Seymour's case and ran into the shower room, closing and locking the door. She held up the briefcase, her eyes shining with victory. "Quick, open it," Mason said, "before he notices the switch." Ah, so that was the Seymour switcheroo. Hadley created that enormous scene to be able to switch suitcases with Seymour so that they could see what was inside it. That was the switcheroo. I wasn't too far off the case, was I? Case. Hadley put the briefcase flat in the tray of the shower. There were drops of water on the fiberglass floor, and through the plug hole Hal could see the ground rushing past. "It's locked!" Hadley exclaimed, rattling the case in frustration. "We didn't think of that!" "He probably has the key in his pocket," Mason said. Hadley huffed. "Now what are we going to do?" And then we've got the gap in the text that tells us we've got a bit of a break in subject and possibly a gap in time as well. "I wondered where you'd disappeared to," Uncle Nat said, looking up at Hal, who stood in the doorway of the roomette with Seymour Hart's briefcase in hands. "What have you got there?" "We need your help," Hal said, indicating Hadley and Mason should come in. It was a squeeze, but Mason slid the door shut behind them as Hadley perched on the arm of Hal's chair. "This is Seymour Hart's briefcase." He held it up. Uncle Nat frowned. "And Seymour Hart is?" "A passenger on the California Comet who we think is involved in Marianne's kidnapping," Hal replied. "He's a Zircona spy," Mason blurted out. "And how do you come to have his briefcase?" Uncle Nat's eyes narrowed. "I bumped into him in the corridor," Hadley said, "and he accidentally took my case instead of his." "Accidentally?" Uncle Nat looked at the children and they all looked down. I presume we're discussing how to return it. We were hoping you might help us open it while he's at lunch, Hal said, wishing he'd confided in his uncle about their investigations earlier. We need to find out if he's involved in the kidnapping. I see. Uncle Nat took the case from Hal and turned it over, examining the lock. He put it down on the table and drummed his fingers on it, thinking, well, you're right. I do know how to get this case open. You do? Mason leaned forward eagerly. Yes. Everyone out. Uncle Nat ushered them into the corridor. Follow me, he said, striding off down the carriage, the briefcase swinging by his side. Hal felt a sickening sense of dread as they headed towards the dining car. Is that him? Uncle Nat pointed at Seymour Hart, sitting at a table by himself, sipping a cup of coffee. Hal nodded. Mind if I sit? Uncle Nat approached the table and slid into the seat opposite Seymour Hart without waiting for a reply. What do you want? Seymour Hart looked anxiously at the three children. My nephew told me you bumped into his friend here. He pointed at Hadley. It was an accident. Seymour looked panicked. Gosh, no wonder, poor man, after Hadley's performance. It seems you made off with her case by mistake. I didn't. Uncle Nat put Seymour's suitcase onto the table. And we have yours. What? Seymour frowned, pulling up the case beside his seat, looking at it properly for the first time. I don't believe it. How did this happen? A mix-up, said Uncle Nat smoothly, swapping the cases. These things happen. All fixed now. Seymour Hart clutched his case with both hands. Are you all right? Uncle Nat looked at him with concern. My whole life is in this case. If I had lost it... Seymour Hart shuddered. If you don't mind me asking, Uncle Nat gave him a gentle smile, what is inside that's so important? Watches, Seymour Hart replied. Watches? Uncle Nat's eyes lit up. I'm on my way to a big conference in Sacramento. He patted the briefcase. I'm a watch salesman. I spent all my savings on the latest models. If I have a good week, that means a good year and a happy family. He shook his head. I really need a good year. I'm rather fond of timepieces. Uncle Nat rolled up his shirt sleeve to show Seymour the 3 watches on his left wrist. Would you be happy to show your watches to an interested customer? Of course! Seymour Hart slid his coffee out of the way, immediately animated. There's always time for watches. He took a small key from his jacket pocket and popped the lid open. Mason, Hadley and Hal leaned in, their eyes scouring the case. They saw an impressive display. 3 rows of expensive-looking wristwatches, each strapped around a velvet cushion, sitting in a black box. Shining glass protected elegant clock faces, cogs and hands precisely measuring the passing of time. Time that was running out for Marianne.